one yesterday, so they are two different sessions. My name is Brenda Kukuk. I am the Senior Coordination Officer with the Secretariat, and you can see that I'm joined today by many of my colleagues, and we will be sharing the load in terms of sharing the presentation over the course of the day, but you're going to hear from me quite a bit here in this first opening. So thank you everyone for joining us. Our web host for the session is Sharaful Islam. So if you are in need of any technical support, please do so in a direct chat to him, and one of my colleagues will help. Maybe Sharaful, if you just want to put on your camera and say hello.
Hello to everyone.
Thank you. Just to take note, if we start on our first slide, we have our topics were divided into 2 days. And so these are not according to the order in the provisional agenda. It has been set up in a way to keep the flow of the briefing very smooth. And today's focus is here on the screen. So we will run through the provisional agenda, schedule and organizational matters. We will run through effectiveness evaluation, financial resources and mechanism, capacity building, technical assistance and technology transfer, knowledge management, artisanal and small-scale gold mining, some cross-cutting matters, Mercury and the Kunming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, international cooperation and coordination, program of work and budget, and venue and dates of COP-7. If you just go to the next slide, you'll see that the topics we covered yesterday are listed here. And if you are interested in learning more about them, both of these sessions will be put up on our YouTube channel following the briefing today. You'll see that there is some overarching content between the two sessions, but overall our review of the agenda items is quite different. The session will be recorded, and as I said, we will be uploading it shortly after we present today. So we just now have one little slide here on housekeeping. We will open the floor for a brief round of questions after every set of documents. And your questions can be put in the chat. We will respond to some of them orally and the remaining ones in writing as we have limited time. You may type your questions in the chat box and send to everyone. We'd welcome that. And if, as I said, if you have any technical assistance needs, please put your message in a chat box to our host, Sharaful. Finally, to just keep our webinars even better in the future, we invite you to complete a short survey provided at the end of the session. Okay, so I now will just start, and I'm going to repeat very quickly a few of the slides we started with yesterday because we think they're very important dates, etc. So here is our calendar slide. It's a busy time for us as the COP is coming up from the 3rd to the 7th of November, and it will take place in Geneva. It will be presided over by Chile, Mr. Osvaldo Alvarez Perez, and I think most of you are very familiar with Osvaldo. The registration for COP-6 is open. The deadline for sponsored participants is the 5th of September, so you still have a short period of time to get your registration in as a sponsored delegate. And for other participants, the deadline is the 24th of October. However, we do encourage you to register as soon as possible because this facilitates our planning process. Also on this calendar slide, I just want to really highlight the regional preparatory meetings that will be starting next week. We are kicking off in Chile for GRULAC from the 3rd to 4th of September. In the Eastern European states in Geneva from the 16th to the 17th of September. Asia Pacific will be meeting from the 23rd to the 24th of September in Bangkok. And for Africa, the meeting will take place from 7 to 9 October. Please note there is a change of venue if you haven't noticed this at this stage, and it has been moved to Nairobi, to our UNEP headquarters, where we're confident we have a great location, and we apologize for any inconvenience the change in location has caused. There are a number of other dates here that are listed, but these will come throughout the presentation and we'll just highlight them as we go along. So just to the next slide, please. So here is our tentative schedule of work. It will be available in our information document 4. The tentative COP-5 schedule of work is designed to allow for a number of things. It will allow for maximum time for plenary to consider and deliberate and adopt items, where of course interpretation into the UN languages is available. It will take into account the potential time required to meet in smaller groups on some of the key agenda items where no interpretation would be available in UN languages. And it will ensure no more than one group works alongside the plenary, or only two groups would work concurrently once plenary is adjourned. It will also just ensure that draft decisions are finalized in time for the program of work and budget group to consider them before the adoption of the budget, which is expected on Friday. So in terms of our overview and schedule on the next slide, here you can just see the expanded schedule of work, which for the meetings of the Bureau, the regional meetings, and we will have more information on filling in some of the knowledge gaps, etc., during this time towards the end. Just take note that registration on site opens on November 2nd on Sunday at 10 a.m. And the working hours are expected to be that no evening sessions will go beyond 10 p.m. This is to support good working conditions, and we hope we can meet this expectation. You will see at the very bottom of the slide, there is a list of possible contact groups and other groups that may be established during COP-6. And these are identified as the program of work and budget, technical matters for agenda item B, as well as Mercury supply sources and trade for agenda item 4A. Other groups could, of course, be established for other agenda items over the course of the meeting as required. You'll see that the Bureau meetings are expected to start at 8 a.m. and the regional meetings at 9 a.m. on a daily basis. So now just moving quickly to documents, and then we will move into our document briefing. Here you'll see the link to our meeting documents page. We're very pleased that many COP working documents are already available, some in languages, others are only in advanced English at this stage. The budget-related documents have been available since the 5th of August, and this is a requirement that we must do this. And according to our rules of procedure, COP-6 documents must be available on the website by the 22nd of September. But we, of course, have been trying to make sure all documents are available for our regional meetings to the extent possible. And this, of course, is starting next week with the GRULAC region. So in terms of the agenda, here is the provisional agenda, which is already available in languages on the website. Information document 3 will be available, which is an annotated agenda, and this will be made available in due course to help you navigate the details of the meeting. Again, this briefing will not present topics in the order in which they are presented in the provisional agenda. The briefing is set up in a way that it just flows well amongst our colleagues and in terms of introducing the items. So I will now get started on introducing documents, and I will be starting out the presentations today, and eventually I will be passing over to other colleagues. So I will start by presenting on the effectiveness evaluation, agenda item 4I. So if we could just move to the next slide. The first slide here, just to give a little bit of background. You'll recall that Article 22 of the Convention is respect to effectiveness evaluation, and that Article 22 states that the COP shall evaluate the effectiveness of the Convention beginning no later than 6 years after the date of entry into force, and following that, it'll be at intervals to be decided by the COP. So the first effectiveness evaluation has been agreed to in a stepwise approach through 2 decisions, the first being at COP4, where they agreed to begin the first evaluation and established the open-ended scientific group. The TOR for that group is set out in Annex 2 of that decision, MC 4/11, and my colleague Isaku Todo provides the technical support to that group. COP5 established the effectiveness evaluation group and agreed to consider the outcomes of the first evaluation at COP7. They also adopted 36 indicators of progress to support the evaluation of the effectiveness evaluation in Annex 2 of that decision. Now, the timing of COP-7 in 2027 will mark the 10-year anniversary of entry into force of the convention. And so it'll be an interesting and timely opportunity to present this first effectiveness evaluation report. So in terms of the documents, and just on the next slide, document 6/16 presents a progress report on the development of the first effectiveness evaluation report, on the first effectiveness evaluation. It includes an overview of the work done since COP5 by both the effectiveness evaluation group and the open-ended scientific group. So just at a high level, the EEG itself, the Effectiveness Evaluation Group, has been co-chaired by Linroy Christian of Antigua and Barbuda, as well as Itsuki Kuroda of Japan. And just to take note that Itsuki Kuroda has resigned from that role and taken up other duties. So this group is expected to elect a new chair, likely in September. And the group consists of 25 members. It's met 6 times online since COP5, and they are working through 6 subgroups to advance the analysis of indicators. They are responsible, of course, to deliver the effectiveness evaluation report by COP7. So they still have some time. And just looking at the open-ended scientific group, it's also known as the OESG. It's co-chaired by Dominique Bali of Côte d'Ivoire, as well as Terry Keating of USA. However, I also note that Terry Keating has resigned in July 2025 from his role, and the group is expected to elect a new co-chair in the near future. The group met once face-to-face in Minamata, which was hosted by the government of Japan, and 10 times online since COP5. So they've been a busy group. They have produced, you'll see in the bottom left corner, there are 2 information documents listed. So the Effectiveness Evaluation Group has prepared a preliminary draft outline of the first effectiveness evaluation report. And this is to signal the progress made and the planning for developing of the report. And then in INF 23, Information Document 23, there will be an update on the work of the open-ended scientific group. This document will be coming a bit late to the COP6. It includes a great deal of work from the open-ended scientific group that I think we'll all be very pleased to see. And it will include work on the analysis of the data and the identification of gaps and lessons learned, and with a view to developing the scientific report. So it will be developed before COP6. Just to present the next slide here on the effectiveness evaluation timeline. It's a very detailed slide here, but I want to point out just a couple of points. It shows the timeline set out in Annex 2 to document 6/16. And I want to show the sequencing here, that there is the timing of the party review process that was identified in previous decisions has been set out in the top row. It shows the availability of information available to parties, and that you'll also see the information at the bottom for the second full national reports that are due by December 31st. And you will see this timeline is quite tight actually to develop the EEG effect report in 2026. And the timeline illustrates really the importance of the deadline of the 31st December for the national reports, second national reports that are due. And you'll have time to have a look at this annex when you look over these documents. The next slide just highlights the possible decision related to effectiveness evaluation. And of course, the actual effectiveness evaluation report will be considered at COP7. But at COP6, the COP may wish to take note of the progress made by the effectiveness evaluation group and the open-ended scientific group since COP5, and to request both groups to continue working to support the COP. They may also wish to appreciate the input from parties and other stakeholders to the effectiveness evaluation, and invite parties to continue providing such input, including comments on the draft of documents developed by the EEG and the OESG, and request parties to submit their full national reports under Article 21 to the Secretariat by the deadline of the 31st of December in order to have the most recent information available for the first effectiveness evaluation, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so this takes us through the documentation for the effectiveness evaluation group. And I'll just pause for a moment to see if there are any questions that anyone may have before I move to the financial resources and mechanism. Okay, so I think we can now move to, I don't see any questions, and I think we can now move to the financial resources and mechanism, agenda item 4E. This, of course, is split into three separate agenda points. If you just move back to the previous slide for a minute, they are under consideration of the Global Environment Facility, Part 2 on the specific international program to support capacity building and technical assistance, as well as a third element on reviewing of the financial mechanism. So if we just go to the next slide on the background, I just want to highlight how that relates to the agenda item. So in terms of Article 13, paragraph 6 establishes that the financial mechanism for the convention includes the Global Environment Facility and the specific international program. As well as paragraph 11 mandates the COP to undertake regular reviews of the entities comprising of the financial mechanism. So these are the two pieces that are reflected in the three sub-agenda item points. Next slide, please. So document 6/9 outlines the matters for consideration by the COP pursuant to decision 511 on the review of the financial mechanism of the Minamata Convention. So document 6/9 includes an overview of the following documents: a compilation of obligations and deadlines under the convention and the extent to which such obligations and deadlines are being met by parties. This is going to be set out in information document 39. It also outlines matters related to the GEF, which is highlighted in document 10, I will go over soon, an overall report on the SIP and the draft analysis of the expected SIP funding and other staff-related needs, the draft terms of reference for the third review of the final financial mechanism, and it sets forth a decision in the annex on the financial mechanism, including additional guidance to the GEF. Just take note that document 612 includes a separate draft decision for the third review of the financial mechanism, and I will cover this after I introduce Jeff and the SIP elements first. Okay, so let's just start with the Jeff on the following slide in terms of document 6/10, update on matters related to the Global Environment Facility. So the update is in document 610, and the executive summary of the GEF Council report to the COP is in addendum document 1 to document 610. So that's an additional document. These should be read in conjunction with the full report of the GEF Council to the COP, which is in information document 13. The report of the GEF Council to the COP contains an account of support provided by the GEF for the implementation of the Minamata Convention during the period of the 1st of July 2022 to the 30th of June 2025. So in this time frame, the GEF committed 174 million. So this is inclusive of project preparation grants and agency fees also for programming to support the implementation of the convention. And this represents 65% of the 269 million allocated by the replenishment. So this includes programs such as the Global Chemicals Monitoring Program and the Gemini program addressing emissions in non-ferrous metals sector. It also includes implementation of full-sized, medium-sized, and individual projects, and several enabling activities on MIAs and ASGM national action plans. As part of the GEF reporting, I just want to take note on the next slide of information document 14, which is the document on the 9th replenishment of the trust fund, and it's the draft strategic positioning and programming directions. So this is an important development as we move forward, that the 9th replenishment is expected to begin in July 2026 and to continue for 4 years until June 2030. And the replenishment negotiations did start in February of this year with technical advisory group meetings, and is expected to culminate in June 2026 at the GEF Assembly. So IMP 14 contains the draft strategic positioning and programming directions that will guide the GEF 9 funding for projects, and including projects undertaken by the GEF in its capacity as part of the financial mechanism under Article 13. So that then concludes the documents on the GEF, but the second component of our financial mechanism is on the specific international program. And I'd like to just highlight document 611. You will see that it describes the support provided by the Secretariat to the CIP. It outlines the work of the CIP governing board since COP-5. It provides an overview of the status of implementation of projects approved in the first through to the fourth rounds of applications, and it contains information on the status of contributions to the specific trust fund. I'd just like to highlight that the information documents in the bottom left corner of the document that complements this document are both the CIP governing board reports, as well as the reports of the special program and the global framework on chemicals funds. On the next slide, we just have a few highlights of the specific international program that are in the documents. And you will note that there have been 4 rounds of applications to the CIP launched to date. 34 projects have been approved by the governing board in 31 countries. And the number of applications has increased with each round of applications. Over 8.4 million US dollars have been contributed to the fund since its establishment. And we'd like to really thank our CIP donors. You'll see their flags at the bottom of the screen. So Austria, Denmark, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, USA, and the United Kingdom. And I want to also describe information document 40, which is a draft analysis of expected funding needs and relating staffing needs of the specific international program. And this was a request in Decision 511 for the Secretariat to prepare such an analysis, as because the CIP itself, the initial term ends at the end of 2027, and the COP will need to decide on whether or not there will be a second term for the CIP at COP-7. So parties may wish to request the Secretariat to work with the CIP governing board to finalize this draft analysis that's been developed so that it can help inform decision-making at COP-7 regarding an extended term of the CIP until 2034. So in terms of the decision that has been put forward for consideration in the annex to document 6.9, this decision then relates to the GEF and the CIP, and parties may wish to welcome the ongoing 9th replenishment of the GEF and highlight its importance for the parties for the period of 26 to 2030, vis-a-vis their respective obligations and deadlines to be met under the convention. They may also wish to provide additional guidance to the GEF to supplement the existing guidance. It may wish to recall the request to the GEF to take into account the timeframes to which parties must adhere for the implementation of mandatory obligations in developing its programming directions and resource allocations for GEF 9, and in further developing projects and programs under the programming directions for GEF 8 as a supplement to the COP guidance, and request the Secretariat to transmit information as outlined in Information Document 39. May wish to encourage the Secretariat to continue to cooperate with the GEF Secretariat in an evaluation of its projects, and encourage the GEF in reporting project results to provide data and information on mercury reduction and avoidance, as well as efforts to advance the effective engagement and participation of Indigenous peoples, women, youth, and local communities. This decision is long, so it's also looking at reiterating the importance of relevant parties working through their operational focal points to make prompt and full use of the programming directions and resource allocations under the GEF. Also to take note of the draft analysis of expected funding and staffing needs of the initial term and a potential extension of the period of the SIP. It may wish to agree to decide upon the possible extension of the SIP, so to make that decision for an additional period of 7 years at COP-7, and to encourage the Secretariat to continue coordinating with the Global Framework on Chemicals Fund and on the special program within the scope of respective mandates to enhance complementarity and to avoid duplication. Okay, so now I'd like to move to the review of the financial mechanism, which is element 3 under agenda item 4E. And you'll just recall that paragraph 11 of Article 13 of the Convention calls upon the COP to review no later than at its third meeting and thereafter on a regular basis the level of funding, the guidance provided by the COP to the entities entrusted with operationalizing the financial mechanism, the effectiveness of those entities, and the ability of those entities to address the changing needs of developing country parties and parties with economies in transition. So the first review of the financial mechanism was completed at COP3, and the second was completed at COP5. So on the next slide, we just outline document 6/12, which provides the draft terms of reference for the third review. And the COP5 requested the Secretariat to provide this terms of reference. It's available in Annex 2 of Decision 6/12. And it builds on the terms of reference for the second review, which was decided upon in Decision 4/7. So a decision at COP-6 on the third review, including on its terms of reference, would allow for the third review to be presented to COP-7. And again, COP-7 will mark the 10th anniversary of the convention. So the proposed timeframe for the review is from August 2022 to June 2026, and that will allow for consideration of all information from immediately after the period of the second review, and it will include significant information on ongoing and completed projects, the effectiveness of completed projects, and the experience of parties with implementing such projects. So this document contains a draft decision, which is separate for the terms of reference for the review. And if you could just go to the decision, the COP may wish to consider the draft decision in the annex to document 6/12. And that decision would be to adopt the terms of reference for the third review, set out in Annex 2 of the document, invite parties, IGOs, NGOs, and stakeholders to submit information consistent with the terms of reference for the review on their experiences gained through the interactions with the financial mechanism, not later than the 30th of April, 2026, and request the Secretariat to compile information relevant to the third review and submit it for consideration at COP-7. Okay, so this concludes the documentation that we have prepared for the financial mechanism at agenda item 4E. And I'm just going to take a little pause here for questions. Okay. So I will move on to my final topic, where I will be able to pass on afterwards to my next colleague. So the next topic is agenda item 4F on capacity building, technical assistance and technology transfer. So just in terms of background, paragraph 1 of Article 14 states the parties shall cooperate to provide within their respective capabilities timely and appropriate capacity building and technical assistance to developing country parties, in particular parties that are least developed countries or small island developing states, and parties with economies in transition to assist them in implementing their obligations under the convention. Paragraph 4 calls on the COP to consider on a regular basis information on existing initiatives and progress made in relation to alternative technologies, consider the needs of parties, particularly developing country parties, for alternative technologies, and identify challenges experienced by parties, particularly for developing country parties in technology transfer. So in terms of the documentation, document 6/13 outlines implementation of activities pursuant to decision 5/12 and article 14 on capacity building, technical assistance, and technical transfer. So I'd just like to go through that on the next slide. And you will see that Part A of document 6/13 provides an update on the status of implementation of decision 5/12, and it provides information on a desk study on alternative technologies that is related to challenges and needs of parties that will be set out in information document 18. It provides a general overview, this document INF 18, rather than an exhaustive analysis of all available technologies, but it does highlight a number of key examples and trends. And this work has been generously funded through Japan funding to the Special Trust Fund. The document also covers Part B, the development and dissemination of tools and training materials, particularly those that have been done through the Secretariat. And it includes information in Part C on continued and enhanced cooperation with the Global Mercury Partnership. And the Global Mercury Partnership will prepare a report that it will be outlined in information document 32. So this information sets out information also on how capacity building, technical assistance, and technology transfer could be undertaken and enhanced by the Secretariat in the next biennium. So if we just move to the decision here, the COP may wish to consider the draft decision contained in the annex, which is in document 6/13, and they may wish to invite developed country parties and other parties to consider the challenges related to alternative technologies in promoting and facilitating their development, transfer and diffusion to developing country parties and parties with economies in transition. They may wish to encourage parties in their Article 21 national reports to include information on development, transfer, and diffusion of and access to alternative technologies, as well as on respective challenges to assist in a future review of challenges and progress. And may request the Secretariat, subject to the availability of resources, to further collect and analyze information on existing initiatives and progress made in relation to alternative technologies as well as challenges in collaboration with the Global Mercury Partnership. Furthermore, I have another slide of items that are included in this draft decision. So they include to decide to consider alternative technologies again at COP-8. The decision, just please move to the next slide, may call on parties and invite non-parties and others to contribute to the Special Trust Fund for the convention to enable the implementation of the capacity building activities described in the 2026-2027 Program of Work and Budget fact sheets for capacity building and technical assistance. And the decision, furthermore, the COP may wish to consider appreciating the work of the Secretariat in developing and disseminating tools and training materials related to the implementation of the obligations under the Convention, and may request the Secretariat to continue to provide capacity building and technical assistance support to parties pursuant to paragraph 1 of Article 14 in cooperation with the Global Mercury Partnership. So that concludes on our documentation for capacity building, and I'd just like to pause for any questions, and I'm happy to report we will move to a new presenter in a moment, but I'm just checking on the questions. I don't see any questions on capacity building, so I'd now like to pass over to my colleague Anna, and we can hear a new voice to present on knowledge management and agenda item 4K. So over to you, Anna.
Thank you, Brenda. Hello, everyone. I'm Ana Garcia, the Communications and Knowledge Management Officer with the Secretariat. COP-5, as you can see on the slide, adopted decision MC516, which welcomed the digital strategy for the Secretariat to guide its work in leveraging technology and managing knowledge effectively to support the implementation of the convention. COP5 also agreed that the implementation of this strategy would begin with priority activities during the current biennium 2024 and 2025. If we move on, this agenda item for COP6 is based on document 619, Knowledge Management and Digitalization to Support Parties, and it reports on progress in implementing the convention's digital strategy during this current biennium as mandated by COP5. Some of the key achievements include significant enhancements to the convention's website, improved online reporting tool, also with new data dashboards. The Secretariat has also expanded digital services for COP meetings, as you will see at the upcoming COP6. Also strengthened cooperation with other MEAs, notably with VRS and Informea, joint work with the Global Mercury Partnership, and expanded e-learning initiative. Looking ahead to the upcoming biennium 2026 2027, the Secretariat plans to maintain and scale these efforts on digitalization by facilitating structured information exchange under Article 17. And INF 26 is a proposal for a Minamata exchange platform. Other efforts are like to integrate the results of the first effectiveness evaluation into knowledge products, expand digital repositories, and further digitize submissions and explore AI applications. Regarding COP decisions, if we move on to the next slide, we will see suggested action for the COP, and the COP may wish to welcome the progress made in implementing the digital strategy during 2024-2025, request the Secretariat to continue this implementation in the upcoming biennium by prioritizing relevant activities and progressive advancing on the strategy. The COP may also wish to maintain and update the convention website as a main public knowledge hub for public information, agree on to support the development of the new Minamata Exchange platform in line with Article 17 and also Article 24 for a structured information exchange, of course, subject to the availability of resources. And other actions, if we move to the next slide, is to encourage the Secretariat to continue cooperation and coordination with relevant stakeholders that include, as you can see on the slide, the Global Mercury Partnership, different secretariats of MEAs and other partners, including Informea, and specifically there's a request to continue collaborating with the Secretariat of the VRS conventions on the exchange of information and shared experience and best practices. And further, there's a request for the Secretariat to report on progress in implementing the digital strategy to COP7. I will pause here to see if there are any specific questions to this agenda item for K. I see that there are no questions. Thanks, Irene. So we will move on to the next item, and I will pass the floor to my colleague, Richard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anna, and good day and or good evening to everyone in attendance, wherever you may be. I am Richard Gutierrez, the Program Officer for National Reporting, but I also function as the sort of resource person for ASGM in the group, as well as a focal point for Indigenous peoples and local communities. I'll be tackling two subjects, two items for today, and that is the ASGM and as well on Indigenous peoples and local communities on the following section. So let me first start off with the matter on item 4C on artisanal small-scale gold mining. The slide before you is a background slide. I will leave it to you, to participants and attendees, to review the slide and the information contained in here at your leisure after the presentation. But do note that this background slide is present here for you to give you, and especially those who are new to Minamata, to have a bit of an understanding of the issue of artisanal small-scale gold mining. Next slide, please. Here on this slide, you will see on the left of your screen, item 4C on artisanal small-scale gold mining. We have two working documents, 6/7, matters for consideration by the COP, pursuant to Decision 5/7, as well as an addendum document 1, which contains the draft sections on the review of the implementation of Article 7 for inclusion in the ASGN guidance. You will also note at the left, at the very bottom, there is an information document 11. We will not cover that for today, but you will be able to explain later. We have a deep dive session later. I'll tell you more about it. But going back onto this slide, I direct your attention to the main part of the slide. The document 6/7 details the implementation status of the mandates established in Decision 5/7. As you will recall, Decision 5/7 on artisanal small-scale gold mining had a couple of areas, and let me walk you through these areas. In letter A, you will note one of the areas is on the progress of implementation of Article 7. On this category, you have three subcategories, which the document will elaborate on or will discuss. These are notifications from parties on whether they have made a determination that artisanal small-scale gold mining in their territory is more than insignificant, the status of submissions of national action plans, and the third, reviews of the implementation of Article 7. The second category in which the document covers is on the effective engagement and participation of Indigenous peoples, local communities, and other stakeholders. As you would recall, the COP mandated us, the Secretariat, to develop this supplement, and we were able to do so in a draft provisional guide on the effective engagement and participation of Indigenous peoples and local communities was indeed developed. We do acknowledge the support of Australia and Norway in making this work possible. And then item C on the document, the document will cover further efforts to advance the implementation of Article 7. And lastly, the identified challenges from national reporting, particularly the second short national report when it comes to the area of ASGM. Next slide, please. On this slide, you will note we have the Addendum 1 document, which contains the draft sections on the review of the implementation of Article 7. As you will note as well, that one of the mandates coming from 5/7 was the development of this supplement, and the Secretary was able to move forward with that work. And you will note on the slide, the main portion of the slide in bullet 2, the aim of the proposed sections which are being proposed is to facilitate reviews and support national focal points to organize information on the results of the review for inclusion in the national reports. As you will recall, parties that have ASGM in their territories are required to report on the progress of the implementation of Article 7 and to include such reports in their reports under Article 21. And the second bullet would be to note that this work was developed in collaboration with the Global Mercury Partnership. And the third bullet quickly elaborates and just shows what to expect from these new sections. Particularly, you will note the document will contain new sections on the review process, which elaborates and adds a bit more information, adding on to the existing guidance on the NAP development. The other relevant item to note is that in the new sections, the engagement of Indigenous peoples is a bit expanded, and particularly it includes a reference to the draft provisional guide on the effective engagement and participation of Indigenous peoples and local communities, which is under INF 11. And lastly, the more critical part of this new section is a proposed reporting template. One of the key challenges in the review is that how parties are to report. So the document provides a template to help national focal points organize the information and include it in the national report. Next slide, please. So we now cover what the suggested action for the COP would be based on the document. And as you will note, there are several key points, several action points, if I may. So let me start off with one. Under this document, the COP may wish to call on parties to submit their final NAPs as soon as possible. Another key item would be to adopt the amendments of the review of progress in the implementation of Annex 7, of Article 7, pardon me. Let me repeat, adopt the amendments on the review of progress in the implementation of Article 7. The COP may also wish to request the Secretariat to incorporate the adopted amendments into the existing guidance document and to cooperate with the Global Mercury Partnership in disseminating the amended guidance. The COP may also wish to call on all parties that have submitted their NAP to provide a review of the progress made in meeting their obligations under Article 7 in their Article 21 reports. At least, and the final last bullet, at least for this slide, the COP may wish to invite parties to make use of the provisional guide on the effective engagement of Indigenous peoples and local communities in the development, implementation, of their national action plans, as well as the review of progress. Next slide, please. So here on the last slide, we will cover the last two major items in terms of suggested action for the COP. And this includes the request the Secretariat, in collaboration with the Global Mercury Partnership, to take stock and report to the COP on two key items. First, measures taken to implement the national action plans. And second, identify successful strategies and activities, achievements in implementation, and challenges and barriers encountered in reducing and eliminating the use, emissions, and releases of mercury in ASG, including information on formalization or regulating ASGM, as well as managing trade and preventing diversion of mercury to use in ASGM. And the last bullet point is request the Secretariat to report to COP7 on items covered in the above. As I mentioned earlier, we have a deep dive information session on ASGM on September 10. Please join us. We will cover this topic a whole lot more, and we will also go into the background information, as well as further dive in to the various issues that culminate into these proposed actions. So that's the end of this section. I will pause for a short while to check if there are any specific questions on the documents prepared for agenda item 8. Sorry about the typo at the end. Do we have any questions? Check. All right, thanks, Irene. So I don't see any hands or questions in the chat. So let me proceed to the next section. Shariful, thank you very much. So I will be, as I mentioned, I'll also be covering the issue of on the Indigenous peoples and local communities. And this is found in item 4J, cross-cutting matters, small letter I, implementation of decision 5.1. As you will note on the left side of your screen, we have one working document and one INF document. So the working document's title is Strengthening the Effective Engagement of Indigenous Peoples as well as Local Communities. So let's start from there. So what does document 6/17 contain? Well, the document includes information on activities to support the implementation of Decision 5.1, which covers the following 3 broad items. First, broadening participation of Indigenous peoples as well as local communities in projects and programs of the Minamata Convention. The second item covered in the document is the enhancements to the Indigenous peoples platform. And lastly, the document covers a summary of the report requested in paragraph 4 of COP-5 Decision 5.1 on the needs and priorities of Indigenous peoples and local communities with regard to the effects of Mercury. And this particular report can be found in INF 24. Next slide, please, Sharon. Thank you. The following slide is on the last document I mentioned, which is INF 24, the title of which is Report on the Needs and Priorities of Indigenous Peoples as well as Local Communities. Now, let me just walk you through what is in INF 24. First, if you will recall, in decision 5/1, the Secretariat was asked to conduct a survey to assess Mercury-related impacts on Indigenous peoples and on local community health, livelihoods, culture, and knowledge. A survey was distributed in 5 languages. It was in English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Bahasa Indonesia. We received 171 responses from 33 countries. We are happy to note that of the 171 respondents, 151 were from Indigenous peoples organizations and 18 from local communities. The survey listed 35 Indigenous and community needs based on the previous report prepared by the Secretariat, and these needs were categorized under 10 categories. Now, in the survey, respondents were asked to score the needs from 0, being 0 qualifying as not a priority, to 10, an urgent priority. Now, categories on human rights, cultural identity and knowledge, and effective participation in the Minamata Convention received high scores from respondents. Received high score from respondents. The results highlighted the concern by respondents across all the needs that's been raised in the survey. And majority of the respondents' ranking reflects subtle variations among needs, which emphasizes the importance of highlighting all of the needs across the survey. So let's move on to the next slide, and we will cover then thanks, Sharon. We will cover then what the draft decision is found in 6/17, the suggested action for the COP. In this regard, let me walk you through these proposed actions. First, the COP may wish to decide to establish a voluntary Indigenous peoples funding mechanism to provide a dedicated financial support for the participation of Indigenous peoples in the work and meetings of the convention. And the COP may also wish to request the Secretary to develop a transparent and inclusive procedure for this. Number 2, the COP may wish to decide that the funding mechanism will operate under the Special Trust Fund and be open to receive funding and in-kind contribution from parties, non-parties, governmental, intergovernmental, and non-governmental organizations and other sources. The COP may also wish to invite parties to provide financial and technical support to facilitate the full and effective participation of Indigenous peoples as well as local communities in the meeting of the COP and in its subsidiary bodies, particularly those from developing countries and regions disproportionately impacted by mercury pollution. And the next slide, please. And here, this will be the final slide for this section. We cover the remaining suggested actions that the COP may wish to take. First, at the very top, the COP may wish to request the Secretariat to seek advice from an interim ad hoc advisory group initially composed of 7 self-nominated representatives from Indigenous peoples organizations accredited as observers to the convention on the following limited issues. First, in identifying and ensuring balanced representation of Indigenous peoples organizations at convention meetings. Second, identifying support for travel and interpretation as needed to enable effective engagement and participation of Indigenous peoples' organizations. And lastly, proposing next steps on strengthening the effective engagement of Indigenous peoples in the work of the convention. The COP may also wish to decide to review at COP-8 the mandate and continuation of the interim ad hoc advisory group, taking into account the outcomes reported by the Secretariat. And lastly, the COP may wish to request the Secretariat to share the survey results with relevant organizations and collaborate with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the Convention of Biodiversity Secretariat, and other relevant organizations to disseminate the results of the survey, as well as to disseminate the results to local communities and other relevant stakeholders. So there you have it. These are all the suggested actions for the COP under document 6/7. 6/17. Now, pause a bit. If there are any specific questions on the documents prepared under this agenda items. So I see a couple of quick questions. There is a question from Placido Silva: how many local communities have identified themselves as participating in the convention? That's a very good question. I don't have the answer for that, and I can get back to you on that when we review our observer list records, Placido. Thank you very much for your question. Do we have any other questions at the moment? How to consult? So we also have another question here from Monica Agagon: how to consult the respondents' parties of the survey? I guess if the question is how do we consult with the parties of the survey? Oh, I'm sorry. So you're, I guess you're referring to the respondents of the survey. So the survey was distributed through existing networks and channels. For example, we sought the help of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. They have an Indigenous Peoples Survey Division there. We also worked with existing networks of Indigenous peoples organizations to disseminate the survey. And one thing that to be aware of as well, and this is part of the reason there is a request for subsequent action from the COP to share the survey results, is that there is a need to get the survey out, and there's a need for increasing and improving the network. So this is very much an initial step from the current activities of the Secretariat, and certainly there is further need to reach out to more Indigenous peoples groups, organizations, as well as local communities. Do we have other questions? Okay, just checking. So there is checking chat. Okay, so this is an interesting question. Thank you very much, Carlos. It's from Juan Carlos de Cud. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Good morning. Considering the broader goal of eradicating pollution and environmental damage, I'm wondering if the COP can also receive comments on mercury substitutes such as cyanide, which are also being used without mitigation measures. I mentioned this because the special rapporteur also includes it in his report, for example, in relation to Paraguay. Thank you very much, Juan Carlos de Cud. This is a very good and timely question. Definitely, the COP may receive such information, but it can only receive it through specific channels. And one channel that is quite relevant and which we are tackling, which we tackled in yesterday's briefing session, is through the national reports. The national report submitted by the parties through Article 21 covers various issues that cover the implementation, the effectiveness of the measures that's being implemented, in which is covered in parties are reporting through the online reporting tool. This year is the deadline for the second full national report coming 31 December 2025 is the full suite of questions, which includes issues on Article 7, which is on ASGM. So this is a very good opportunity for the COP to learn on these measures, including cyanide, as you mentioned, as it's contained in the national reports submitted by the various parties. So that's a good question, and I hope I answered your question. The national report is one of the means in which the COP can get such information and to look at it as well. All right, thank you very much. I think I've exhausted my time. So any further questions will be answered by the chat, or we will directly respond to you by email. Now I pass on the floor to my colleague Brenda, who will cover the next item in our agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Richard. I will step in here. My name is Lara Ognibene. I am the legal officer of the Secretariat, and I'm also the gender focal point for the Secretariat. I would like to introduce to you agenda item 4J, cross-cutting matters, implementation of decision 515. Relevant document, working document under this agenda item is document 6/18 on activities to address health concerns of women and children in the 2026-2027 biennium. And this is complemented by an INF document 25 on the status of implementation of decision 5/15 during the current biennium. So as a background, COP5 adopted decision MC 515, welcoming the Gender Action Plan and inviting parties and the Secretariat to carry out specific activities to implement the plan during the 2024-2025 biennium. The Secretariat was also requested to review the implementation of the plan during this biennium, and this is the information that you will find in the INF 25. Based on the progress made so far in implementing the Gender Action Plan, the Secretariat has identified for consideration by COP-6 activities that could be carried out by the Secretariat during the next biennium 2026-2027, and a list of suggested activities is set out in the annex to document 618. Next slide. So this is the suggested action that you will find in the document 618. So the COP may wish to take note with appreciation of the activities carried out by the Secretariat during this biennium to address health concerns of women and children, invite parties to carry out activities to address health concerns of women and children during the next biennium, and share with the Secretariat their related experiences and good practices, and also invite parties to provide comments as appropriate on possible activities to be carried out by the Secretariat and other stakeholders and parties in the 2028-2029 biennium, so that COP-6 can decide on the matter. Slide. Then the COP may also request the Secretariat to carry out activity, so not only the parties, but also the Secretariat to carry out activities to address health concerns of women and children during the next biennium. And a list of activities for the Secretariat is included in Annex 1 to the document. And also request the Secretariat to report to the COP on the implementation of the decision and propose possible activities to be carried out in the 2028-2029 biennium for consideration by COP7. I stop here and I'm available in case there are any questions. I don't see. I see one question from Rita. Hello, where can one find data on statistics and on the effects of impact of mercury on women and children? I will put the information in the chat, and so you can have the information available for everyone. Thank you very much. I hand over to Brenda.
Thank you very much, Lara. So I will now cover agenda item 4L on Mercury and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. So if we go to the document, it's the document available on this agenda item is 6/20, and it's a roadmap for enhancing co-benefits from implementation of the Minamata Convention and the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. So this document 620 includes an overview of the activities undertaken in response to decision 5/17 and the proposed roadmap. And it also just in the roadmap highlights a few key pillars, which include contributions to the monitoring framework of the Minamata Convention's monitoring framework of the contributions to the monitoring framework of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. It also includes inclusion of mercury reduction actions and targets in the National Biodiversity Strategies and Action Plans and National Biodiversity Targets. It includes creation of an enabling environment for enhanced co-benefits together and indicators for measuring progress in implementing the roadmap. You'll see on the bottom left-hand side of the screen 2 information documents that are related to this agenda item. So information document 27 is a technical document on integrating actions to reduce mercury pollution from artisanal and small-scale gold mining into national biodiversity strategies and actions plans. So they aligned with the biodiversity framework. This is a document that has been funded by the Netherlands, and we have partnered with the Nature Conservancy in the development of this work. You'll also note that there is information document 41 that will be available that will include a list of key decisions from the 15th and 16th meetings of the COP to the Convention on Biological Diversity that are of relevance in the context of the proposed roadmap. So it includes a list of decisions in the Annex 1, as well as provides resources to support parties in integrating mercury reduction actions into their biodiversity strategies. So if we just move to the next slide, I'd like to just highlight the possible considerations, a suggested action for the COP within this document 620. So the COP may wish to welcome the roadmap for enhancing co-benefits for implementation of the 2 instruments. It may wish to encourage parties and invite other governments and local and subnational governments, as well as Indigenous peoples, local communities, and other relevant stakeholders, including private sector, academia, women, children, and youth, all as appropriate, to undertake the actions suggested in the roadmap. It may wish to encourage parties and invite other governments that have submitted notifications pursuant to paragraph 3 of Article 7 on artisanal and small-scale gold mining to use the technical support document that will be available in information document 27 to integrate actions to reduce mercury into the biodiversity strategies and action plans. May wish to also welcome the decision of the CBD COP to invite the IPBES to consider adding an assessment on pollution and biodiversity to its work program and request the Secretariat to initiate cooperation with IPBES, which is, of course, the International Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. So this would be an interesting collaboration together to coordinate the 2 pieces of work related to pollution and biodiversity. May wish to also encourage parties to engage in the burn process, which is coordinating activities across biodiversity and other frameworks. So this can encourage policy coherence amongst the MEAs, but also at national level. And finally, to request the Secretariat, subject to resources, of course, to contribute to the implementation of the roadmap and to continue its engagement in the burn process in collaboration with UNEP and with other MEAs. So I'll just stop here to see if there are any questions on agenda item 4L. And from here, I don't see any questions, so I'll pass over to my colleague Lara to continue on international cooperation and coordination. Over to you, Lara.
Thank you, Brenda. So regarding agenda item 5, international cooperation and coordination, we prepared 2 working documents that will be considered under this agenda item. The one is document 6/21 on international cooperation and coordination, and the second one is 6/22 on cooperation and coordination between the secretariats of the Minamata Convention and the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions. So the first document, a general document on international cooperation and coordination, details information on activities undertaken to cooperate and coordinate with other entities. The detailed information that is relevant to this document is included in the INF 28, which covers the period between December 2023 and June this year. So these 2 documents, the working document 21 and the INF 28, need to be read in conjunction if you want to have a full picture of all the activities undertaken during the intersessional period. In addition, there are a number of INF documents that are available that have been submitted by various entities that are relevant to this agenda item that are also to be reviewed and read in conjunction with document 6/21. I will provide you a list in the next slide. As I said earlier, please go back to the previous slide. Thank you. There is a second working document that will be considered by the COP under this agenda item, and this is document 6/22 on cooperation between Minamata and BRS secretariats. This document recognizes that the sharing of services will enhance cooperation and coordination based on experience and proximity and can foster the effective implementation of the Minamata Convention. And the document also includes a draft decision, which I will detail later. Now, moving on to the list of INF documents in the next slide that are relevant to this agenda item. We have INF 28, which I already mentioned, which details information on activities undertaken by the Secretariat with other entities during the intersessional period. We have INF 29, which is a joint report between Minamata Secretariat and BRS Secretariat on past activities and framework for cooperation on planned activities. So this INF has detailed information on the activities carried out in cooperation and coordination by the 2 secretariats, as well as a framework for cooperation for the next biennium. And this really mirrors the document that was already submitted to the BRS COPs earlier this year. Then INF 30 is the report by the UNEP Executive Director to COP-6. INF 31 is the report by the World Health Organization and the International Labour Organization to COP-6. INF 32 is the report on the Mercury-related activities of relevant international bodies. This is a list of other activities undertaken by other bodies that are relevant to Mercury, as submitted by other entities. Then in INF 33, we have a report on activities undertaken within the Global Mercury Partnership of UNEP. INF 35 is the report by the Global Framework on Chemicals to COP-6. And finally, on INF 35, there's the report by the Secretariat of the ad hoc open-ended working group on a science policy panel on chemicals, waste, and pollution prevention. This concludes the list of INFs under this agenda item. Now we go to the suggested action. As you remember, we have 2 working documents and 2 draft decisions under this agenda item. The first one is contained in document 6/21 and relates to the general cooperation and coordination with other entities. The COP in this context may wish to welcome the adoption by UNEA 6 of resolutions on matters related to international cooperation and coordination, and request the Secretariat to contribute to their implementation as appropriate. The COP may also wish to welcome the establishment of the Intergovernmental Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, Wastes, and Pollution, and express its interest in establishing a partnership with the panel to advance the work of reaching the objective of the Minamata Convention, and request the Secretariat to cooperate with the Secretariat of the panel and seek observer status in the plenary of the panel. The COP may also wish to request the Secretariat to conduct, subject to availability of resources, a scoping study on possible areas for strengthening the science policy interface to advance implementation of the Convention for consideration by COP7. Slide, please. The COP may also welcome the proposal for activities that provide mutual support to the implementation of the Convention and the Global Framework on Chemicals, and request the Secretariat to carry out those activities and continue and further enhance cooperation and coordination with the Secretariat of the Global Framework on Chemicals. The COP may also wish to request the Executive Secretary to take steps for membership and participation of the Secretariat in the IOMC, and invite the Secretariat to continue to work in close cooperation with the IOMC. The COP may also request the Secretariat to continue cooperation coordination with the Global Mercury Partnership, the CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity, the UNFCCC, the UNCCD, IAEA, and the UN Children's Fund on issues of common interest, and with other international bodies in areas of relevance to the Convention. And finally, request the Secretariat to report on the implementation of this decision to COP7. Now, moving on to the second working document, the second draft decision that you will find in the document 622 that will be considered under agenda item 5. And this relates to the cooperation coordination with the BRS Secretariat. The COP may wish to take note of the joint report on cooperation coordination between the two secretariats for the current biennium, and also the outline of cooperation activities planned for the next biennium. The COP may wish to reaffirm the importance of continued cooperation on programmatic synergies, of the use of the task force between the two secretariats and UNEP Chemicals and Health Branch, and of the possibility for the Secretariat to provide Secretariat support to the BRS conventions on a cost recovery basis. The COP may also wish to welcome the cooperation between the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention and the BRS Secretariat regarding the training of potential chairs and negotiators for meetings of bodies, and request the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention, subject to availability of resources, to continue contributing to the implementation of such training. Next slide, please. And then a few requests directed to the Executive Secretary of the Minamata Convention. The COP may request the Executive Secretary to continue with the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention and under the overall steering of the task force to cooperate on relevant administrative, programmatic, scientific, and technical assistance matters, to continue to implement the sharing of services and of the purchase of relevant services with the Secretariat of the BRS Conventions on a cost recovery basis, and to report on the implementation of the decision, including on a stable framework for cooperation and for the sharing of services, providing an outline of the cooperation activities plan for the 2028-2029 biennium for consideration at COP7. The text of this draft decision mirrors, as I mentioned earlier, the draft decision on the same matter that was adopted at the last BRS COPs earlier this year. I stop here, and I am available in case there are any questions you may have on this agenda item. I see none. I therefore hand over the mic to Brenda for the last few slides. Thank you. Oh, no, sorry, to Sandra. Sorry. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Lara, and hello to everyone. My name is Sandra Rücker, and I'm the Administrative Officer of the Secretariat, and I'll walk you through Agenda Item 6, the Program of Work and Budget for the next biennium 2026-2027. And just to mention, I'll be very brief in my introduction because there will be a dedicated information session on the budget on this topic on the 30th of September at the same time as this. Can you hear me well? Okay, let me continue. I hope everything will be fine with the microphone. So in terms of the documents, the main document is document 23 on the Program of Work and Budget with the 2 funding scenarios for the 2026-27 biennium. So that's the 0 nominal growth and the 5% scenario, as we've also had in the past. Then it's complemented by certain information documents. That's number 36, the progress in the implementation of the Secretariat's program of work for this current biennium. Then we have INF document 37, the information on financial matters, which includes the financial statements. It also includes the budget implementation status of the current and the previous biennium of the General Trust Fund and the Special Trust Fund, and inter alia also the status of contributions. And then there's INF document 38, the budget activity fact sheets to complement the main budget document. And as normal, there is expected during COP-6 to be a budget contact group, which we expect, as always, to be with parties only, meaning no observers, as all contact groups only in English, meaning no interpretation. And the role of the group would be to propose a draft decision, including the budget and the assessed contributions for the 26-27 biennium. And another role is the budgetary review of all other decisions to be adopted by COP-6 to make sure that all financial implications are included in the budget proposal. And then the plenary would consider and adopt the budget decision for COP-6, meaning the program of work and budget for the 26-27 biennium. So on the next slide, I just put a few highlights. So in the 5% scenario contains a proposal that comes to $7.8 million before 13% program support costs. And compared to the current biennium, the 24-25 approved budget, it proposes increases in the areas of effectiveness evaluation, national reporting, staff costs, financial resources and mechanism, and legal and policy activities. And also to note, and there's a dedicated section in this document, that there were quite some challenges in budgeting for the staff costs for the next biennium. And this is inter alia. I mean, one of the big factors was the unfavorable exchange rate development between the Swiss francs and the US dollars, which brought the costs in US dollars up considerably. And as a result, there is in the proposed budget, there's an increase of 8%, 8.2% in the staff costs compared to the 24-25 approved budget. And that in spite of us not proposing any new position, and in spite of us even temporarily freezing one position, which is the G5 administrative assistant position, which we're freezing for the whole biennium to allow the staff costs not to go up even further. Also, another highlight is that we're proposing to carry forward one meeting of the effectiveness evaluation group into the 26-27 biennium, which did not take place in 2024. And on the next slide, I've just highlighted the suggested action for the COP in considering the draft decision and consequently adopting the decision. So the COP may wish to approve the budget for the General Trust Fund for the next biennium. Also authorize the Executive Secretary to carry forward the unused funds for the meeting of the Effectiveness Evaluation Group that did not take place in 2024. Another point is that the COP may wish to decide that the Executive Secretary may use funds from the accumulated balance of the General Trust Fund to cover any shortfalls in salary costs. And that is because the staff costs for the next biennium are really budgeted at the minimum. So meaning there's no margin for any further unfavorable exchange rate fluctuations or anything else that's not foreseen. And then the COP may also wish to adopt the indicative scale of assessments for the General Trust Fund for the next biennium and agree to the estimates for the Special Trust Fund for the next biennium. So with this, I'm ending my short presentation because, as I mentioned, there will be a deep dive session just on the budget on 30th of September. But if there's any questions, please feel free to ask. And I can see there's one. Okay, I can see there's a question in the chat which we'll be answering in the chat. So I will pass on now to my colleague Brenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandra. So this is we have only 3 minutes left in our session today, and this is our final agenda item we want to cover, which is the venue and dates of COP-7. There will be a document available, 6/24, on the venue and dates. And so just to take note that the meeting of the COP shall take place at the seat of the Secretariat unless the COP decides otherwise. And the Secretariat invited parties to submit offers to host COP-7 for consideration during COP-6. And as of now, no offers have been received. And in case no offers are received, we do have a booking from the 14th to the 18th of June, 2027, with a preparatory meeting on the 13th of June at the CICG in Geneva. You will note that this does shrink our intersessional work time from our usual November intervals, and efforts are being made from our side to see if alternate dates can be booked, but we have not received another option from the center at this point. So we are looking at alternatives. So just another item related to this that is in the run-up to the COP, we have as a Secretariat encountered challenges in organizing all of the regional preparatory meetings within the deadline for the distribution of documents, which is the 6-week period before the COP. That's established in Rule 11 of the Rules of Procedure. So you will note that since our regional meetings start next week, this time around, this is beyond the 6-week deadline for documents, and we are having challenges making sure all documents are available for our regional meetings. So that's something we think folks may want to consider in the decision on the venue and dates for COP-7. And then we also just want to highlight that specific arrangements could be made regarding the inclusion of a high-level segment, possibly at COP-7 or at another opportunity. And I would particularly note this in relation to COP-7 in 2027, marking the 10-year anniversary of the Minamata Convention. Next slide, please. So just in terms of the suggested action for the COP may wish to decide on the date and venue for COP-7 in 2027, to request the Executive Secretary to assist parties in their preparations to support the meeting subject to the availability of resources and to have regional meetings. The the COP may also wish to invite the Executive Secretary to distribute the provisional agenda together with supporting documents to the parties in the official languages of the COP at least 8 weeks before the opening of the future COP meetings. This would ensure that the meetings, this would be a measure to help ensure regional meetings have access to the translated documents, and to invite parties to submit offers to host COP8 3 months before the opening of COP7. Okay, so this concludes our documents. If there are any questions on agenda item 7, please place them in the chat and we can answer them through the chat, because we have hit 2:30 here. So I just want to close out. Maybe just moving to the next slide quickly. I just want to say that we do have 3 more sessions in this online series on Tuesday, September 9th, and on Wednesday, September 10th, both deep dives on supply, sources, and trade, and the second on ASGM. So we encourage you to attend those and register for those events. And as Sandra just mentioned, an event on the 30th of September for the program of work and budget. Next slide, please. Just highlighting as we close out that there are a couple of special events organized by the Secretariat that will take place on Sunday, 2nd of November. That'll be an event open to the public from 5:30 till 8, highlighting protecting the Amazon from mercury pollution. And then on Monday, the 3rd of November, a high-level session or a high-level participants participating in a session on driving effective and inclusive implementation of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. Next slide. There are a number of other COP-6 events being online events from the 13th to the 17th of October. These are the Minamata side events, which will be held online, and the program, those who have accepted side events will be notified this week. So the deadline for application for these events has closed, and information will be provided in due course on the schedule for the Knowledge Lab sessions and exhibition booths. So any updates will be posted on our website. And I just wish to close out by thanking everybody for your participation in today's session and yesterday's session. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks at our deep dive sessions. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for the strong participation today, and we look forward to welcoming you at COP6 in November. Thank you.